Hello everyone, and today we're going to talk about crypto coins and niches that I like and don't like. Now, this is very important because, there's certain categories that I think are absolute trash, others that I think are actually really good potential and have like a very good potential for safe yet small earnings or a lot of risk but massive earnings. We're going to go through each niche and explain why I think it's either trash or good. So let's actually start with the exchanges. I mean, centralized exchanges. We'll talk about DEXs later, but centralized exchanges right now. I really like this niche, and I'm talking about coins like BNB, CRO, LCX, and others. Now, the reason I like this niche is because when you're making the utility argument, these coins actually have a much stronger utility argument than your average coins. What do I actually mean by that? Well, these coins have direct use in their exchanges. You might think that's very limited, but if you take Binance, for instance, that's the biggest exchange in the world. They transact billions of dollars each day. If you hold these coins, you can get significant discounts. So there is an incentive for people to actually hold those coins. Unlike other categories where there's essentially no incentive for them to hold the coins, there is incentive for them to hold the coins in this specific niche. CRO, same thing. Now, BNB does actually buy back the coins and then burn them to ensure their supply goes down to about 100 million. So I still think there's potential there. And I think BNB's market cap can easily double or triple in the bull run because obviously if there's a bull run and people start using the exchanges more, the volume will go up and there's going to be more demand for these. Plus, you get like basically a lead on their launchpad projects. And some of their launchpad projects, you actually need BNB to actually participate in. CRO, I think, is definitely a higher potential coin, not as much solid backing as BNB, not as big, but I still think it's fairly safe. And I think the ROI is much bigger potential than BNB just because it's a much lower market cap coin. Things like LCX, obviously like very high potential, but also a little bit more risky. Although I don't particularly think LCX is extremely risky, but if you're willing to settle for 2-3x ROI at this point, BNB I think is a great bet. If you're looking for 5 to 10, maybe you look at CRO or something. I still think that can reach $1.25. If you're looking for higher ROI, you might want to look at LCX and other coins further down the list here, as they will actually provide more of that potential. So I like these coins definitely way better than average. I think it's like, like lower risk than most other niches, but just as high potential. Yes, most of these coins are centralized, but and no, that does not matter because that won't really affect whether you actually get an ROI or not. If you're just thinking about money and like how much you can make, I think exchange coins, centralized exchange coins are a great choice. Yeah, the other thing I want to talk about next is DEXs. I also like these more than usual. Now, most of these coins, I'm not really sure if they have the same functionality as like BNB, but these are governance coins. Do I think governance coins are overrated? Yes. Do I think people understand what governance coins are and that they are overrated? No. And that's why they will buy them. Because like people are like, oh, it's a governance coin. I have a say in how the exchange is run. That's true if you have a lot of coins, but generally it doesn't really change like how the exchange actually runs. However, you will actually need those coins to actually participate in DeFi. And that is extremely important, obviously, because if you want to participate in the DeFi of those coins, then like you're going to need lots of these coins. So there's an incentive for holding them as well to generate yield. Because generally the exchange coin is one side of almost every pair of the DeFi that basically exists on the coin. So you want to pick a DEX that actually has a lot of volume. If you pick a DEX with not that much volume, it may not benefit you. So like, if you pick like Solana or Sui or something with a big ecosystem, I think when the bull run comes, when people want to generate yield on both sides of the DeFi pair, I think like the coins that are like, those kind of coins will do extremely well. And like not only like the actual like coin of the chain, but the coin of the exchange too will actually do very well. Once again, like I think something like Pancake Swap, they'll have a lot of pairs for DeFi there. And I think like that'll be in demand, as well as like Uniswap and others. Obviously, the bigger the DEX, the less the ROI potential, but also the bigger the safety factor. So I think you should choose maybe one or two big dexes and a couple of like, mid-level dexes, maybe like a market cap somewhere in the hundreds of millions. I think that would be the best choice. And those mid-level dexes, even like 100 million or so, I think they might be able to grow up to a billion or more, and you could actually in the bull run get 10x or more even from here. Uniswap, you might not be able to do that, but they're obviously safer. They're not going to go belly up, and they will still provide you with a pretty good ROI. I like dexes almost as much as like the centralized exchange coins. I actually do think their potential is higher than centralized exchange coins, but I also think they're a little bit riskier than centralized exchange coins. And that's because like they tend to get hacked a little bit more. I know that goes counterintuitive to what you guys believe in. Like, if it's truly decentralized, if the smart contracts are written well, they shouldn't get hacked. It's not how real life works. Like major breaches of DEXs actually occur a little bit more than major breaches of centralized exchanges. And the issue with that is that like when a DEX actually gets breached, there's no like recourse, like there's no like safe fund for the DEX to reimburse you. Whereas if Binance gets breached, they have a giant safe fund. So, and like Binance has really never gotten all that breached for like large amounts of funds, where DEXs sometimes lose all their funds. So for that reason alone, it's way more risky. And a lot of these DEXs are very, very small or smaller than the major centralized exchanges that I would actually buy. So they're just inherently more risky. Added with a hacking factor, that's just something that you may not really want to mess with. The other thing is like perps trading dexes like Hyperliquid. I really like Hyperliquid. I would actually buy it right now, but once again, it does have that hacking risk. And if it gets hacked, you can kiss your investment goodbye. There's always that risk. No matter how good you think the code is or how good you think the team is, there's always a big, big risk. And most of these DEXs are not registered businesses, so they can actually be a rug pull. And I don't think just because you have an incredible team and you think the reputation is good, it won't like have some of these problems. Almost all like categories of DEXs have these sorts of problems. They're just a little bit more scandalous than the big centralized exchanges, because a lot of the centralized exchanges like Coinbase are heavily regulated, whereas the DEXs are not heavily regulated and they can get away with more shady stuff. Like I said, right now I do favor the perps trading platforms like Hyperliquid, WBT. But once again, if you can get over the risk of actually those platforms getting hacked, I think they have great potential. And Hype is something that I would buy, but remember, there is the risk that the platform could be compromised. And I don't think they have safe funds to actually repay people if the platform is compromised, because DEXs usually don't. Next one is memes. Memes are a mixed bag. I actually like the bigger memes. I like Bonk. I like Turbo. I like Pepe. Doge is okay. I don't think the ROI is going to be that high for Doge. I'm not a huge fan of Shiba because I don't think that meme is as strong as Pepe or some of the others. The smaller memes, like the super small memes, like 10 million market cap and below, those have massive potential, but they're also like really like 1 in 10, 1 in 100 shot. Most of them are not going to do anything, and you risk losing all your money if you have like a huge allocation in those memes. I would not put more than 10% of my money in those smaller memes. The larger memes, I could allocate a bigger part of my portfolio because I don't think Bonk or Pepe is going to go to zero. And I still think they have a lot of potential for big gains later in the bull run. And they will be some of the coins to first go up in the bull run. Because let's face it, crypto is mainly like people's speculation, is more of a speculative market than anything else. And because crypto is more of a speculative market than anything else, like those are going to be like some of the big memes are going to be the first things people pour money into. One of the ones you want to look at is Fartcoin. That's still fairly new. It seems to have a lot of big volatility. It's not top 50, which means the potential is there, and it doesn't seem to want to die. Now, if you buy Fartcoin and you get like 5 or 10x, I would pretty much sell immediately, because that could dump really hard too. So essentially, like, I like these memes, but once the memes go up 5 or 10x, I would actually sell, unless you have like $100 in some really small meme. Then you might want to wait for 100x or more. But if you like have a decently large meme in the top 100, even top 200, once you hit that 5, 10x marker, I would sell. But I actually do like the meme. I do like the meme niche because I think it's going to be one of the most profitable niches when the bull run comes back. Very risky, but I think it's going to be highly profitable. Let's talk about L1s. Now, L1s are also a very mixed bag. I think you have to look at the market cap to TVL ratio on the L1s to see like if they're actually undervalued, overvalued, or such. Most L1s don't have a TVL, and if they don't have a TVL, or if they're not one of the known L1s with a lot of hype, I would not buy them. There are hundreds of L1s. Most of them will not do a single thing. That's right. Most of them will accomplish absolutely nothing. There's a lot of competition. We don't need hundreds of L1s. Just because like you have an L1, you look at it, you're like, oh, we're gonna attract a lot of customers. We're built for clients. We have a platform for decentralized applications and blah 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 blah. Trust me, they all say that. And it's really not that impressive once you've read like 100 white papers. You realize they're pretty much all the same. And most of the founders and teams are just spewing BS to try to get you to buy their coin. And honestly, that's what it is. So the smaller L1s, I would be extremely careful. I have no problem buying Solana, Sui, or the other big L1s that actually have a big semblance of building a big ecosystem. And they have to be pretty good at promoting as well. This is not an industry anymore whereas if you build it, they'll come. That's kind of gone out the window. This is an industry where you have to like do promotions, do products to actually attract users. Look at Cardano. It's got a high market cap, but no one actually uses that blockchain, or not very many people do. You want to look for the presence of stable coins, obviously, because that's a big fact in DeFi. Look at their TVL, look how many active users they have in DeFi, and pick ones with a good ratio of like both TVL and active users to DeFi versus market cap, because I think that's how you're going to get the best returns. If you see a very, very small L1, maybe like 50, 100 million, you see like a lot of people active in trading, not bots, but actual users active in trading as a vibrant community of non-bots once again, and of course has a good TVL. Now, TVL can be faked, so you do need to be very careful with that specific metric, but just look at those metrics and pick ones that kind of have a good ratio of that to market cap, and I think you will do the best. Nothing's obviously guaranteed. Don't get infatuated with like, PhDs or whatever on the team. That means absolutely jack, because they can fake that, and B, like, it's really hard to check up those people's credentials. And just because they have a couple of PhDs on the team doesn't actually mean anything. Trust me, PhDs can want to swindle people out of millions of dollars too. Just because they have a higher degree does not mean they are more honorable or noble. Everyone's just a human, and they have the same flaws that every other human does. Just because they have spent a couple more years in school does not mean they are more noble than anyone else. It doesn't mean they're less noble, but it does not mean they are more noble. Basically, just because I have a bachelor's or master's degree does not mean I'm a better person than someone that only has a high school degree. That's not how life works. And just because someone spent more years in the educational system does not mean their heart is pure and flawless. It doesn't actually mean anything. It just means they have more degrees. So don't get wooed by their PhD degrees or their credentials or anything. Look at the project itself. Look at what the total value locked is versus their market cap. Look at if they have any active users, and make your decision based on more solid raw numbers than what credentials the founders actually have. Because most of the times when people are like, oh, look at this project's founders' credentials, I look at them like, I have never heard of these people, so I could care less. So that's how I think you should make your determination on L1s. Gaming. I don't like gaming. I used to like gaming. I don't like gaming because gaming for me has not proven itself in the world of crypto. And here's what I mean by that. I've not seen one successful crypto game actually come out that got really big. Most of the problem is the developers are too obsessed with actually making money with the crypto in-game transactions to actually make a good game. And most of the games suck. Axie Infinity, I think, is a great example. A lot of people actually played it, but the gameplay I've heard from a lot of people was kind of garbage, and they were just playing it to make money. That kind of game does not last. Axie only got really popular because you could actually make more money from playing it than actually working a job in the Philippines. So it got really, really popular there. But that's not a long-lasting or good formula for a successful project. So I really wouldn't I really wouldn't trust that, first of all. And that's not something that I would bank on to actually to make, a good investment long run. You might be able to dip into that while it's in FOMO and get a lot of money just like Axie, but I would pull out of it pretty fast. I wouldn't invest in the gaming stuff because a lot of those games like Star Atlas, they're just never going to get done, honestly. And a lot of those game titles never really get released. So your money just is kind of like burned. So I myself am going to stay away from gaming. If you really like gaming and you really like a certain game project and the game seems pretty good to you, you can buy it. I mean, if you've actually play tested it and actually determined, hey, this could actually go somewhere, that's not a bad investment. But as a niche as a whole, it just has not proven itself to me. I don't really even see why most of the big AAA games would even use crypto. A lot of them already have their own in-game currency. I mean, you look at League of Legends, you have like Riot Points, and I'm not really sure why they would ever switch that to crypto. Some people have made the argument that you get a crypto, you can actually make it interoperable with other games. But realistically, I don't think Blizzard wants to make their currency interoperable with EverQuest. I think they all want their own gated communities, and that's why I don't necessarily think crypto is really built for the gaming world, at least not as of yet. So to me, I'm going to stay away from gaming, but if you really like a certain game that uses crypto, maybe look at it, I don't know. I also don't think that the rumors of GTA 6 crypto are quite true, but I could be wrong about that. AI. Now, I think most AI coins are garbage, and that goes with most AI agents as well. There's a couple of bots that are going to be useful, trading bots, Twitter bots, and things like that. But a lot of them, from what I see, are just blow-up dolls, and you shouldn't want to invest in those long-term. Maybe one of them, maybe one of the bigger ones, maybe those are entertaining and people know about it. But generally, for the ones that don't really have a trading or Twitter control purpose, I probably wouldn't use them. Most of them are the exact same. They just have a cute, I guess, sexy icon, and that's basically about it. And that's really not something to actually invest in. But like I said, the popular trading bots, the popular trading AIs, the popular ones that actually do Twitter tweets for you, some of those might be worth looking at. Now, the AI cryptos themselves, I still haven't really figured out why you really need AI for crypto. The only real use case I see for AI and crypto is a distributed GPU power pool. That I can see kind of something for. Render, I think, is okay for one, because it's 3D rendering. I know what that is. I know they have a couple of partnerships, and that might have something going for it. I think Near has some basically connections with NVIDIA, because they actually did appear on stage with NVIDIA, so I think that's okay. But the other AI coins, I think they will get some FOMO, so you could take a pig in a poke and get really lucky on guessing which one is going to be good. But realistically, I've read a lot of the why my coin exists thing for AI and what the purpose is. And I think 95% of them are garbage, because I don't really see why you would actually need a blockchain or crypto at all to have what they do for AI. And I don't really think a lot of times they're doing anything for AI. They just want you to buy the coin to, I guess, fund more GPU purchases or just to grift you of money. So be very, very careful for AI coins. Do I think there'll be a FOMO for AI coins? Yes, AI is huge. It's not going away. The demand is going to be there. But I think a lot of people in the investing industry have figured out just because AI is big does not mean AI cryptos are going to be big. Not at all, because most AI cryptos do not do anything. So some of the more established ones, BitTensor, Render, Near, they might actually be okay. But the smaller AI coins, if you read their white paper and their purpose for being there and you don't understand it, and it seems like some technical gibberish, do not buy it, because that's probably what it is. And it's probably one dude in his mom's basement trying to grift money from people. So I wouldn't really look at the AI. I wouldn't really look at the AI market with that friendly of an eye, because I think there's way more grifters there and scammers there than other niches in crypto. And that's pretty hard to do, but they're obviously trying to ride the AI narrative without having much, solid stuff backing them. Utility coins. I think most of you know what I think about coins that are trying to focus solely on industrial utility. I mean, it's like a noble cause, I suppose, but I wouldn't buy them because I don't think industrial utility or industrial use cases really affect the price of coins, nor will they ever affect the price of coins. Hedera had like 1,000 TPS a couple of years ago doing stuff with Avery Dennison. Their price didn't go up at all. I think the partnerships do generate some of that hype, but that hype is like quickly dying down in terms of the partnerships because people are understanding after many years that partnerships don't really help price. In terms of the remittance coins, XRP, XLM, I don't think they're going to do very well because I think their purpose has basically been taken over by the stable coins and they're going to try to have to find a new use case, whether DeFi or something else. So realistically, I think the main use case in crypto is going to be DeFi, yield generation, and new financial system. Those that are trying to do like money transfer or logistics management or something, I don't think actually will generate that much value for coin investors. That does not mean they're not going to generate value for the actual company. But remember, buying a crypto does not entitle you to a share of the company. So even if like the company generates a lot of profits from basically other companies licensing their blockchain technology, it does not mean that you as a coin holder are going to see any of that profit because it doesn't actually make the price of your coin go up. I am pretty convinced at this point that most of these chains are designed to where they can handle thousands of TPS or hundreds of TPS transactions per second to such a rate that the coin burn is never going to affect the price, at least not for a couple of decades, and no one wants to wait for 30 or 40 years on a crypto investment. And it makes sense that they would design it that way because if large amounts of usage actually basically made the price of the coin go up, then the industries aren't going to use their chain because then it gets too expensive. So it actually it counteracts what we want. We want the price of the coin to go up. The foundations that actually are trying to sell the utility do not want the price of the coin to go up because then it makes it more expensive for their clients to use the chain and less clients will use the chain. Remember, these foundations or companies might be getting paid thousands of dollars, maybe even millions of dollars per month or per year because the company's licensing and using their technology. But we don't see any of that profits because our profits are dependent on the profits of the coin, not on the profits of the company. Like Ripple might make a lot of money licensing their messaging software. I don't actually think Ripple does because I don't think they're actually profitable without selling XRP. I think one of their employees actually said that a little while ago, and I don't think that's changed. But even if Ripple was very profitable, basically licensing their messaging software, that doesn't really help XRP's price. Because it doesn't really need to go up for X current to actually work. Same thing with Hedera. If Avery Dennison was licensing their blockchain for like $1 million a year doing those transactions, yeah, the Hedera Foundation could make a lot of money, but that doesn't actually make the price of Hbar go up. So there needs to be an understanding in that aspect. So I don't like the coins that are solely focused on utility or mainly focused on industrial utility. Make sure they have a strong DeFi front before you go into those coins. Oracles. I don't really know if I would invest in anything besides Chainlink and Pyth at this point. Those have gotten like a nod from the government. That's why Pyth went up so much. The other oracles, you don't really need that many oracles, and a lot of chains are going to come up with their own oracles. So I'm not super infatuated with the idea of a lot of oracles. I think Chainlink is fine. I think Pyth is fine at this point. But outside of those, I probably wouldn't invest in oracles. I know there's some hype about API 3 and Solana and stuff, and maybe you want to take a look at that because I think both Solana and Ton are using that one. But I feel much better with Chainlink and Pyth right now. Or just Chainlink. If you want an oracle, just buy Chainlink. I still think it has a decent amount of potential, and I do think a lot of institutions are going to use it. Will the pricing actually increase Chainlink's price? I don't know, but at least people are using it and it's not going to die. That would be my opinion. So I think Chainlink is better than the rest. And finally, Polyfi. I personally would not touch Polyfi. Polyfi has a very short time window. And just look at what happened to Trump coin and WLFI. I mean, WLFI isn't supposed to be like a meme Polyfi coin, but it essentially is basically insiders sold 700 million basically as soon as it was launched. They literally froze 247 big WLFI accounts to prevent Justin Sun and others from selling. And as soon as they unlock them, that thing is going down because I think the big investors realize that, yeah, we got to ditch this as soon as possible because we bought for 1.5 cents to 5 cents. And as long as we can make a profit selling, we're going to sell. So any like polyfi coins, maybe around election time, you might want to buy them, like presidential election, not midterms. You maybe around election time you want to buy them, or like a year before election time. But outside of that, I would not buy that shit at all. I think that stuff is like just terrible, and I think it's a great way to actually lose money. Trump is very good at using his presidential influence to grift his followers to basically con them of money. Some of them willingly donate. Others think that like the Trump coin can make them a huge fortune, and then they buy it at the top and they lose like 60-70% of their money. And that's, I think, a lot of what's happened to the polyfi coins. So I wouldn't touch those. I think those are just meme coins, but like, worse. So that is my rundown of the niches. Let me know if you agree or not in the comments. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button, and I will see you guys later.